Are you comfortable being like a sex symbol?
I never consider myself to be a sex symbol. I think that's hilarious because there's been so many ups and downs in my life.
Look right in the camera for a sec.
I just learned the quality to fight.
You're just inches away, and then you fall short. That's hard to handle.
My spinal cord? It would have been easy to just fail and give up. But that's just never been a real option.
There had to be such insecurity growing up, having to come to the Salvation Army and ask for help.
We're always going to be a sucker for the underdog. And very rarely do you find an underdog story like ours.
Number 1 in the world, Lolo Jones.
It's unparalleled how passionate she is, but not satisfied.
It's my job to hurdle over obstacles, but I've hurdled over so many life obstacles. It's like sometimes bad things are going to happen in your life, or you might not have the great ideal situation to grow up in. Those things can make you stronger if you just learn how to get over them. And definitely think my struggles and my childhood had just helped me learn how to fight. Growing up, Des Moines, Iowa, I mean, there's some low points. My dad, he was always in and out of prison, drunk driving or like violence or whatever, but like the specific details were never provided. It would just be like, oh, okay, your dad's, you know, in jail or whatever, and never know when he would come back.
You know, my dad was in and out of prison a lot, and so a lot of times we kind of had to, you know, fend for ourselves. There's 5 of us.
I ended up doing at least 12 years flat before I was released. So I know she had a long, hard road to hoe.
It would, you know, it was like a roller coaster. He would come and down, be here for a while, and then he'd leave, and he was just always getting in trouble. He just fighting demons.
He just liked to drink, and, you know, drinking causes a lot of problems. He would go to jail and get out and go back in.
Her mother was doing her best to take care of the kids on her own. She would work, always worked whenever she could get work.
She worked hard, you know. There'd be a lot of the times where she worked 2 jobs to support us.
She raised 5 kids, like, on nothing. Like, who raises 5 kids on $500 a month? That's pretty crazy.
You end up staying with family or friends, or at one time we even stayed at the Salvation Army shelter because I was riding around in the car with all 5 of my kids with nowhere to go, and they thought we were just going to the park and just taking a ride because I didn't tell them that we really didn't have anywhere to go.
They came to the building with their possessions. They slept on the stage in the gym area.
You know, we lived in the bottom of a church basement, and it's like dark, and it's like you have these open showers, and I was so embarrassed.
For the children, there had to be insecurity every day of their life, not knowing from one day to the next, are we going to be able to stay in this place to live? Do we have to move again?
I remember a couple of times, you know, having to use the food stamps and being worried that one of my friends would come up behind me in the store. But I remember getting a lot of government-provided food. There's certain kind of cheese that you get from the government, milk. We ate a lot of beans growing up. I definitely would say by 6th grade I was a professional shoplifter. And not because I wanted to. I mean, I'm not going out to shoplift earrings or clothes or shoes like the average teenager. I was shoplifting frozen dinners at a grocery store. I could shoplift 4 frozen dinners easily. Candy bars, snacks, anything I needed to make sure that I had food. My dad, when he was back and lived with us, he was actually a great dad, you know. Dad was always buying these cars, these cheap cars to kind of get us through a season, and they'd always break down. So I remember one night it was so cold, and we had so far to go. And I remember he would just be like, "Well, run faster. We'll keep your heart rate up." I'm freaking running from one side of Des Moines all the way to the other, just because our car is always breaking down. People always ask me how I got started running, and I was running with my dad because we didn't have a car. As, you know, my mom would shift from place to place, or, you know, dad would be in and out of my life. Running was like the friend that never left. It was just always there. I'd say it was the only constant thing in my life.
I knew she was running then, but I didn't know how great she was then.
In high school, the coach needed somebody to run hurdles. None of the other girls wanted to run them, so I was like, I'll do it.
Lolo kind of found a niche there in the hurdles. She always wanted to master, you know, what she was doing, and would stay after practice, sometimes just to do extra.
Knew I was good in track, but I remember in the back of my mind, I was like, you can get a scholarship out of this. You can get a scholarship out of this. You can be the first from your family to go to college and get a real job, and you won't have to be a maid or a janitor or, you know, a minimum wage job. So that was the driving force. In the back of my mind in high school, I remember just keep running so you can get the scholarship, so you can get out of poverty.
She was going to good school, and I knew if she stayed in that school, more than likely she was going to get a scholarship for college.
Colleges were starting to send me letters like, we're interested in you. You know, then my mom was saying that we're moving. So then I just ended up staying with parents of one of the kids I ran on summer track with.
The athletic director came to us and asked if we'd be willing to consider having her join our family for her senior year in high school. And our role was to provide an environment where she could really have a great senior year. I think she made that tough choice, that she knew what her goals were going to be. She knew what she wanted to try to accomplish, and she knew she had to stay at Roosevelt to make that happen.
I just don't think the drive would have been there had I not grown up being in poverty. It just made me a fighter. Let's try to get an education and get out of this.
In 1987, we won our first NCAA championship, and then we won the next 11 straight outdoors.
Louisiana State Tigers, men's and women's national champion.
And it took an entire team to win this championship for the Lady Tigers. LSU seized control of the race.
You think of dynasties maybe in college basketball where there's just a dominant player or two that helped win several championships in a row. But to win 11 in a row, you've essentially had 3 completely different changes in personnel during that time frame.
The LSU women's track and field program does not get the credit that it deserves. But if you look at the numbers and you look at what they've done, you have to put it on an achievement level with UCLA in basketball or with Alabama football. They have to be in that group.
When I started in the fall of '93, they were coming off winning the men's and women's championship in 1992. And then while I was there, we pretty much swept everything.
And Walker and Carson out fast in the middle of the track in the white of LSU. Now Carson making a move in 5. It's Kim Carson of LSU. Carson will win it.
Kim's one of our great athletes. Her senior year, she went totally undefeated and was the NCAA champion.
It's hard to find somebody from Iowa who's kind of done the things you would like to do. She had been there. She ran at Roosevelt, ran at LSU, ran professionally, so it was great to have her to get advice from.
Lolo's 8 years younger than me, and people were like, oh, there's a hurdler, a young hurdler. When I came back, I would speak at Roosevelt, and so I met her kind of through that. I watch her every time I get a chance to come home. She's actually more talented than I was in high school, all the way around, I think.